So taking you back to your piping, you kept up your piping at the College of Piping over all the years, and no doubt you studied, apart from the light music, you'd study Pibroch.
Oh yes, I am.
So who or how did you go about these studies, the Pibroch studies?
Well, I suppose I was a member of the Pibroch Society.
When?
I try to think, 25, 20, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Between 25 and 30 years ago.
Okay.
And it was an interesting thing because every year they had a conference.
Mm-hmm.
And you got all the folk who knew about these things. And it's interesting that some of the leaders in piping, in Pibroch especially, were, I suppose, academics, but usually quite well-off folk who had, gone into it and then realised that this was something important. And Archie Campbell, from quite near where I come from, Kilberry.
Yes.
He was one who was very, very important, and also the chap from up north, he was a lawyer. He'd been in the army, but he was also a lawyer, and these two really made the...
You're talking about Sheriff?
Rothiemurchus.
Yeah.
These
That's
two...
Grant, wasn't it?
Grant, aye.
Mm-hmm.
My memory for names is dreadful.
Ah, well, mine's even worse, so we've managed to put together a name. Aye.
Anyway, these two really did an awful lot to get the Pibroch Society.
He did the foreword actually to the book one in the Pibroch Society.
And also he did the Kilberry book.
Aye.
And so they really were tremendous, because without having it done, it would have been difficult.
Do you feel that the emphasis over the years changed the way the Pibroch Society viewed how the tunes should be played?
I don't think so. I think there's always good players and there's always odd ones. But now, one of the interesting things is recently with all the technology. I mean, I was in Belfast at the weekend judging this Pibroch there, and I was very impressed. And one of the things is, I mean, there's quite a few guys from the Field Marshal playing great bagpipes, but they were playing quite well too, and I think a lot of it, they used to not be very good at the Pibroch. But now you can get, just on your iPhone, you can get this guy playing the tune or that guy playing the tune.
Yeah.
So it's so much easier now for them.
So they can get
listen to
the auditory or the audible
yes.
lesson, whereas you're maybe just confronted by a book, the Kilberry book or the Pibroch Society. Right.
No, it's very important to hear someone play.
Of course it is.
And the way the Kilberry, I've always criticised the Kilberry book for the lack of attention to the staff notation.
Yes.
I mean, Kilberry is always writing wee things at the beginning of the bar, which should be before the bar line. I mean, in light music, the interesting thing is that pipers are very, very correct. And when it's light music, if there's a little introduction before the main beat, it's always before the bar line.
The anacrosis.
Yes. And no, in Pibroch, Kilberry and others didn't do that. So you get the bar line and then the kind of wee bit introduction and then the main beat, which is wrong. And I've always complained about that being, I suppose, in a way...
Well, but Bennett's Borrowing, they took a different approach again.
It's rather better. He didn't bother too much. He had kind of phrases. But I've actually published a book which I apply staff notation correctly. And
What about the time signatures? Is that important?
Oh, aye, it's very important. And they can change. And in Kilberry and all these books, they never change them. But when I write the tune out, I change it if it needs changing. And I think it makes it easier.
Staff notation implies rhythm.
Well, that's another thing. But when you hear a good Pibroch player playing, there is rhythm. There might be 3 beats in some bars or 5 beats in some bars, but that's not accounted for in Kilberry at all.
And what about Pibroch Society? Did they cover it rather better?
Well, the Pibroch Society are still. I've argued. In fact, I did of this conference every year, and one year I did a talk on the scoring of Kjolmore, and it's a lot to agree with me, but the music committee are very afraid to upset the apple cart.
So they prefer the status quo rather than...
Well, aye. And there's a lot of work to do that.
And the book you're referring to here is Sight Readable Kjolmore, Book 1, and I see it's McCrimmon Memorial Borreg Earl Skye. Why is that motif there, Dougal?
Well, that's just a motif.
Okay. And who publishes this?
I publish it because the concern I have is that the Pibroch Society and maybe even the college are maybe not in line with what I think. So I thought, well, and if
it's another view on Pibroch.
If that was a college publication, people in the college could say, "Oh, we'll revise it," and I don't want it revised.
How many tunes are in this book?
I think there's about 36 tunes or something. But book 2's on the way if I can get my man to do the. Now I can write it out by hand, but it takes a while to do the computer, especially with Pibroch when you have a lot of funny wee things.
And explain again the difference between your book and the Pibroch Society collection.
The Pibroch Society book, if you were just taking it up and playing it exactly as it's there, it would be hopeless.
In what respect?
Well, because the tune wouldn't come out. They use sometimes things that look like grace notes, which we think are just and they can be quite long.
Yeah.
And it's full of that kind of thing. And now, one of the things is that the guys who know how to interpret it think, well, that's good. And of course, DMacNeill even, that's one thing I used to argue about it. He said, no, it's quite good to be mystified like that, because it means you have to go to a teacher. But it'd be much easier for the teacher too if it was properly written.
Well, we're back to the old argument again about memory. How good's a teacher's memory and how good was his teacher's memory, and it stretched back through the generations and the centuries, right back to the composer. How much have we changed the tune from the mind of the composer? Is that a legitimate change anyway? Is it a personal expression?